Hey, everybody, this is Dr. Gibbs. I am so excited. We're doing a special edition of the Tuesday Live tonight, and I have a special guest, Dr. Rashmi Schramm, with me today. And this is going to be so cool because we are going to talk all the deets about meditation and how it helps your hormones. So, before we get started, don't forget, scientific proof is not nearly as black and white as people think. And in order to make treatment decisions for individual people, sometimes we have to consider evidence that's not nearly as absolute as we would like. This is not meant to be medical advice, and you should consult your own physician for any medical issues or diagnoses you may have. All right, let's get into it. So today I am so honored to welcome Dr. Rashmi Schramm to the live. Welcome, Rashmi.
Thank you
so exciting to have you here. And Dr. Rashmi is a family medicine physician turned meditation coach. And we are here to talk about all things meditation and what meditation can do for your life and for your stress levels and for your hormones. And so the first thing that I want to know is, okay, you're a family doctor. That's a pretty big transition from being a family doctor to being a meditation coach. So I want to know where it started, how it happened, and where it's going.
Yeah, for sure. So you're right. I'm a family medicine doctor, been in practice for a little over 20 years. And it was very much a personal journey that took me on this sort of route that now I am in. And I really never thought I was going to coach or teach meditation. That was actually never on my radar, even when something like a dozen or so years ago, I started to dive into teacher training. And the reason I did that, this was before really like social media. I didn't really know anything about other people teaching meditation or practicing meditation. And so I had a fledgling meditation practice that would be on and off over the years that I had developed really personally. I had a meditation practice, but I was in this low level burnout. And when I was in that low level burnout, I felt like everyone around me in medicine, because I felt like all my friends, I mean, I'm married to another physician, like we were all in this burnout phase. And I would find some respite in meditation, and I wouldn't really understand how to keep that practice up or go deeper into that practice. And so when I stumbled upon a meditation teacher training that said, you have to, if you choose to become this teacher, in this teacher training, you have to sign on this dotted line that you will meditate every single day. And so apparently I needed that external accountability. And I was like, yes, where do I sign? And so I was never because I thought I was ever going to teach. It was because I needed the community. I needed the in-depth teachings that I was sort of craving for. And I needed some accountability, clearly. And so that's how it started. And of course, as you know, once you start one of these things, it's like everything opens up. And so it just led from that to Ayurveda, to coaching, and a few other meditation programs. And so truthfully, if I'm being fully honest with you, it was for my own health and healing that I was searching for answers that I wasn't getting in kind of the traditional medical system. And when I started to understand it a little bit better, I was bringing it to my patients initially. But I think, I've probably shared the story. I practiced in a very high volume, very black and white, square
peg,
yeah, exactly. And I tried that for actually several years, and it wasn't healthy for me. It wasn't healthy for my patients. And so I kind of left the system and have been practicing in this way of being able to bring some of these teachings and bring in my own experience within coaching and within meditation. So that's a long story. Sorry.
No, that's great. That's really, really good. So you're a coach, and I think probably a lot of my audience doesn't really know what a coach does. I mean, when I think of coaching, or when I used to think of coaching, I would think like football coach or gymnastics coach. So what does a coach who does what you do, what do you do? Describe what you do to somebody who doesn't know.
I love that. And I too had never heard of a coach other than like my kid's soccer coach whenever I was like, oh, I'll sign up for this teacher training or this coach training. And what the lights that went off for me was for several years, I had been practicing and trying to teach meditation. And what coaching felt like to me was almost like the yang to the yin of the meditation, like, the almost the action oriented part of meditation. And it helped me to kind of put all the pieces of the puzzle together. And so I'm sure different people have different definitions of coaching, but the way that I approach when I'm, coaching is that it is not teaching. In fact, it is anti-teaching because like, let's say I was in a coaching session with you. What I know for sure is that you actually have all the answers within you. And my job is to show up as not just a mirror, but also a vessel and a conduit, and with an inner knowing that you have infinite potential. Whether you are capable of seeing it or not in that moment, it doesn't matter, because me as your coach, I'm going to continuously reflect that back to you within the realm of asking sort of these questions that are very open-ended. And we can, start to go from a very broad part of that to more and more narrow pieces until more insights arise. I hope that helps.
Yes, somewhat. So if someone was to come to you and say, I would like coaching I'm starting a new business, I would like coaching. How does that help them?
Yeah. So I'm not sure I would be the best person to do business coaching, but so it wouldn't be business coaching. But if it was around, let's say, these unconscious beliefs that they might have, that either they, have these fears that they're either going to be, actually, a lot of us have fears that we're going to be successful and what that means. And so first, it would really just look like us having a conversation for about 30 minutes, just exploring like, what someone might be looking for, right? And then making sure that it would be an aligned situation, because if someone is looking for something so specific that I can't offer them, it wouldn't really help. But if it was more around, I can't seem to get around these limitations in my mind, although no one speaks like that. But if they're
I was going to say, nobody who has limitations in their mind knows they have limitations in their mind at first.
Exactly.
So they just know that they're freaked out because they have to, go do marketing or something.
Yeah, that's right. And there are plenty of those. I've coached quite a lot of very high achieving women who have started practices, who have started businesses, who are, scaling their businesses. And it isn't so much about the business itself, it's what's happening inside of us as we're doing these things. And as we start to uncover more of these, what now we're calling these limitations in our minds, and that it is literally created in our minds, then they can start to actually explore more of that infinite potential. But it's always paired with some amount of meditation. It's like I always say, I like to say, coaching supercharged with meditation.
Very cool. All right, so let's talk a little bit about meditation. Let's talk about what meditation can do for your hormone levels. And when I talk to people about hormone levels, I go into a lot of sympathetic versus parasympathetic, and what does that mean? And we're going to try to reduce sympathetic tone and get people more into parasympathetic, healing and resting, and less into the high stress fight or flight thing. So how does meditation do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think of the autonomic nervous system as like a seesaw. It isn't like binary. It's not like we can only be in one or the other. Like there's usually this seesaw effect. And so I love that you're saying to your patients and your, the people that you teach and coach, hey, you should be moving closer to the parasympathetic response, because that's actually exactly what we're supposed to be doing as human beings. And if you, look at evolutionarily, we were technically supposed to be in that sympathetic fight or flight response for probably like 60 seconds at a time or something like that, maybe like 3 times a day.
Yeah, but 24/7.
24/7. which is really what's happened, right?
Yeah.
And it can be damaging. I mean, it can be damaging to so many different end organs. What happens to the body in that high inflammatory, high alert state. And so that's actually exactly where meditation comes in, right? Because meditation is a tool, and that's what I like to tell people, that it's just a tool. And the types of meditation that I teach, for example, they're these very sophisticated tools that have evolved over thousands of years. And so and yes, at the very beginning stages, it takes us from that sympathetic to the parasympathetic, and then it can take us a lot deeper as well. And so the way that meditation can move us from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic is actually way more simple than we can even imagine, right? It gives us the capacity to begin to practice literally feeling what's here in the body, which we are so disembodied most of the time, right? And it gives us a capacity to focus not just on doing, but in being as well. And so
Okay.
when you move from that doing to being, from that thinking to feeling, the parasympathetic response kicks in. And
Okay.
right. And
Yeah.
so and because you've practiced lots of meditation, that's why we're here. We're at a movement meditation retreat together.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So Dr. Gibbs has been moving and meditating for 2 days.
I have been giving it my best shot.
She's really moving and meditating, y'all.
Oh,
But
my
what you
goodness.
know then is there's so many different techniques, right? So we might just focus on our breathing. We might just focus on feeling certain body parts. We might just focus on visualizing something. And
Mhm.
so each of these things then is moving us closer and closer to that seesaw that's more and more balanced. And when that happens, then we give the capacity for homeostasis to come back in, right? Like, so we give the
Mhm.
capacity for that dynamic non-change to constantly, it's already there, but it usually doesn't get that much airtime.
Yeah.
So we're giving it that capacity.
Yeah. Can we talk a little bit in specific about yoga nidra, because that's the practice that I have personally found most useful, and particularly in helping me sleep better. So can you say a little bit more about what yoga nidra is? Because I've said that term to people and had them give me this blank stare, and I'm like, well, it's you explain it because I'm not good at explaining it.
It is kind of hard to explain because we don't really have the words for it.
Yeah.
It's like it's beyond words sometimes. So yoga means union and nidra means sleep. And so what this very, very specific type of meditation can do is we lie down, right? So it's a really simple thing. It's a sleep based meditation, not in the sense that you have to be asleep to meditate, but we actually are utilizing states of sleep, physiological states of sleep, to kind of take us into these subconscious spaces, right? So what we know is even first time meditators, when they're doing a yoga nidra, if we had EEG machines, that they would have, pretty quickly, within probably the first 5 to 6 minutes, they would be in these alpha brainwave states. Because you and I right now, we're in beta. And then, in different times of the nidra, it's really designed to drop you into deeper and deeper states than that. So there are, lots and lots of studies that show delta and theta and all of the things that you would
Cool.
think had, that you
would
were
only
actually
see and
asleep.
really sleep.
Yeah,
Really, really actually asleep. Yeah.
exactly. But we're planting in affirmations, we're planting in intentions that are aligned with, who we say we are.
Mhm.
And we're doing that in a very subtle state. And so over time, literally you end up rewiring your brain, right? Like, I mean, we're constantly rewiring the brain, of course, but you end up rewiring your brain to the point where, if you've practiced a nidra, for example, which this is the case for me, so I'll just speak for me.
Yeah.
So I have a nidra that I do a lot. And probably within the first like 6 minutes, like I have, because I'm just on, like, I'm just super excited to be at this retreat. So it's been actually a little bit hard for me to kind of calm it down at night, because like I'm just so excited for the next day and the next thing. And so it's great because I've done this one nidra so many times. I'll turn it on and I don't know at what point I went to sleep, but it's usually probably within the first 6 or 7 minutes. And it's really the neurons that fire together, wire together. And I've done it a bunch of times. So if it was the first time doing it, I might not work. I don't know, but
Mm,
we're use that consistency, and it's also a tool that's designed to take us deeper into those states and
very
drop you
cool.
off in sleep.
Okay, awesome. Um, Tell me, are there any misconceptions or myths about meditation that you know of that you want to address
Yeah,
today?
I think
Yeah.
so. I think so. Um, well, I think there's several, but the most common one that I tend to see is that we all have to feel blissful, or we have to feel a certain way, like we have to feel some kind of lightness or
Mm.
something like that. Otherwise, it wasn't a good meditation. And so what really
So
we
what
have
you're
to
saying
remind.
is there's not really a success or a failure. I mean, that was a big thing that I thought going in was, well, I didn't feel any this or that, and therefore I'm a failure as a meditation practitioner or whatever.
For sure, for sure. So, I mean, I used to have the same, I used to have some of the same things too, because we live in a world of metrics and binary, like,
Yeah.
like black or white. This is either
Mhm.
good or bad. This is either a success or a failure. But meditation doesn't fall into any of those categories, because remember, it is a formal practice of mindfulness. And I'll just remind you of the definition of mindfulness is the awareness that arises when we're paying attention to this present moment without judgment and with curiosity. And
Okay,
so it's a
cool.
practice to
Mhm.
say, I'm curious as to why I felt either, agitated, or I had a lot of thoughts coming up, without judging it. Like, it just means that's just exactly what happened, right? And so if you tried to follow a meditation, or if you tried to sit for a certain amount of time with a certain, mantra or something like that,
Mhm.
then that is actually a meditation. Like, you meditated, you're a meditator.
Okay. So it's not thinking about your thoughts, it's not thinking about your thoughts.
Exactly, 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 right? So that can
It's just letting
also.
them come and then letting them get and then letting them go again.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah. So it's the act of being the witness.
Yeah. Very cool. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, couple more questions. What advice would you have? There's a lot of doctors who listen to this live series. What advice would you have for doctors or other healthcare professionals that want to advise their patients or help their patients incorporate meditation?
Yeah, this is really common. In fact, I actually have the same thing that happened as well. I actually think, for someone who's completely new to meditation, I think any one of those apps is a really great place to start. And
Oh,
like,
like,
I like Calm. I
okay,
like 10% Happier is a little bit deeper.
okay.
And
I've heard of that
Headspace.
one.
Headspace is fantastic.
Okay,
And if someone has Netflix, Headspace did a fantastic series on just Headspace Guide to Meditation. And
oh,
there's a
cool.
meditation at the end of every single episode. And I know that it's still on Netflix because I just checked. But
Okay.
I actually,
Headspace Guide to Meditation
yeah, and
on
it's
Netflix. Cool.
fantastic. They did a great job. And that way they can start to get an idea as to what may be helpful for them, what they might find helpful, like what kind of meditation they want to do. Do they, or we can literally just sit down, turn the timer on for 5 minutes, just sit down and notice the breath. And that is a very valid meditation. So
Okay.
you don't even need an app. So if you don't want to spend money on an app, you can just do that. Insight Timer is another one. So I think apps
Insight
are
timer.
apps
Mhm.
are always a great place to start. In fact, almost everyone that comes to work with me, they've already worked inside apps. They're great to start with, but they tend to be fairly generic. So if there's something more specific, or
Mhm.
kind of deeper, people want to get into, that's when I'll see them come ask me.
Cool. All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up. So, how can people find you if they would like to find you to learn how to do yoga nidra?
Yeah, absolutely. My website is just my name. So it's really simple. It's just rashmischramm.com. I have a free YouTube channel as well. So I'd love to connect on any of the, social medias. My handle is just Dr. Rashmi Schramm. I,
On Instagram, right?
on Instagram,
Mhm.
on TikTok,
TikTok.
Facebook.
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
in all of those, LinkedIn. But yes, please come reach out, and I'd love to tell you more. I do run group yoga nidras quite often. I'll probably run one for the holidays this year. I usually run a holiday special. So
I
I'll
think
probably
that's
do
when
that
I
again.
started with you, was last holiday season. Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was very cool.
So I'd love to connect.
Awesome. Well, this has been super cool. Thank you so much for joining me live together, actually in real life. This has been great. And I'll see you guys all next week. And we'll talk again soon. If you are looking for me, my website is also danagibbsmd.com. I'm a thyroid and hormone specialist, and I help people get back to wellness, especially if they have been dismissed or unsuccessful with traditional medical practice. So I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care. Bye bye.